So I've been doing a lot of research recently for a video that I was going to do on, am going to do on fan culture. More like the Japanese side of fan culture, so I guess doujin culture. Not in the sense of the manga, let's say, people will read on specific websites, but more in the sense of taking pre-existing IPs and creating new things with them that are outside of the profit range of the person who made the IPs. And basically talking about how this is exists in a way outside of a capitalist system while still being hauntological, in scare quotes. But, and while I was researching this, obviously I went to Mark Fisher in some of his lectures, and I started taking some serious issues with the way he uses the term music. I find he uses it very broadly, and it's my whole shtick is musical accelerationism, because I'm sick of listening to the same old boring stuff over and over again. And I've started to take some issues with it. I feel like he should be using genre, but this is specifically from his slow cancellation of the future lecture. Editing me here. Here's a picture of my dog while I yap. Originally, I was going to put clips from his slow cancellation of the future lecture, but it got to the point where I was going to be putting in 4 or 5 minute clips, so everything kind of made sense. If you haven't watched it, I recommend going to watch it. It is quite good, outside of the issues that I obviously take with it. But I do think you should watch it and then maybe come back and see what I have to say. And if you have already watched it, this should make sense. I believe what he was saying here is a broad generalization caused by his personal bias towards the genres like jungle or punk. And I will be arguing throughout this essay that I wrote in like 2 hours, like 2 weeks ago after watching this video because it pissed me off so much, that music as a whole is immune, like music as an art form is immune to hauntology and the cancellation of the future, which is, as I will get into when I define terms in just a moment, it's this cancellation of the future and this hauntology is exclusive to genre and what I'm calling music as a merchandise, or musica ut mer, to be pretentious as fuck. While it could be argued that he's talking specifically about popular genres, I haven't been able to find any instances where he clarifies that, and I'm specifically saying that he is referring to this as all-encompassing. While it could be argued that he's talking about specifically popular genres, I have only been able to find instances where he's talking as though this is all-encompassing of the musical field, and I will be addressing and responding to this under that framework. I must clarify that I'm not dismissing what he is saying. I am simply saying that there are issues caused by the language that he is using. Fisher is basing this off of his own personal preferences of genre, more specifically stylistic and cultural choices, and because of this he is lumping in all music with it. I agree with Fisher's ideas of capitalist realism and hauntology. Frankly, I am really just using this essay as a way to correct and narrow terms, and also lay down some starting concepts for musical accelerationism. I'm going to start off with defining some terms. First, we have music as an art. I have this written in my essay in Latin as musica ut ars, but my Latin is awful, so I'm just going to say music as art. This is when the outward projection of the creator's inward uniqueness or the intent behind what they wish to create is placed before conforming to genre norms or staying in what is seen as acceptable within music as merchandise. All music starts out as music as art, but shifts into music as merchandise when it is altered to conform to genre norms or where the market potential is placed above the original intent. Next, we have music as merchandise. This is where the music is primarily created as a product. It's created to be digestible to the masses. The intent of music as merchandise is to always accessibility and profit. This form of music is inherently haunted in the Stirnerian sense, and this is what I believe Fisher is broadly generalizing all music into. Next, I have 3 theses, which I'm going to be addressing later. Music as art is only limited by technological limitations. The limits of music as an art is not the limits of technical ability, one's technique, or the compositional ability, but is the limits of technology. As long as technology advances, so will music as an art. Second, due to the lack of musical education and the ever-simplification of music as merchandise, complex compositional techniques and complex theory knowledge are becoming esoteric. Thus, all music involving techniques and theory outside of the Overton window of music as merchandise is inherently sonically unimaginable. And third, by taking both of the things that I previously cited, both of my previous theses, my conclusion is that music as an art is immune to hauntology and the slow death of the future. Due to the sonic unimaginability of music of the past and the intrinsic link between music as art and technology, it is impossible for music as art to ever stagnate or become hauntological. Only genre, being made up of predetermined elements, can do this. Firstly, music as art is only limited by technological limitations. Fisher believed that music is limited by culture, particularly a culture shaped by capitalism that promotes nostalgia, or anemoia in the case of people born after the 90s trying to pretend they're fucking Kurt Cobain, because it's safe, risk-free, and marketable. Market pressure pushes music towards repetition rather than innovation. He sought to prove this with a time travel experiment. I will be using the same time travel experiment to prove him wrong. The time travel experiment that Fisher provides is false when taken outside of genre and applied to music as a whole. I will be providing 2 examples of this from 2 very different genres and explaining why they are sonically unimaginable to people of the past, exclusively because of stylistic choices only possible due to technological advancements. Both of these examples were released prior to 2014, when Fisher gave the lecture. While I could use more recent examples like Mirar's Mare, the track Franca. Editing me here. I don't know how YouTube's copyright system works, so I'm not going to play the music, but I'll put links in the description if you want to just go listen to them. I'm really not about to find out the hard way. I believe that it is fairer to use examples that were around when he gave the lecture. For my first example, I'll be using Viljarda's 2011 release Mastain. This is music that fits within the genre of Thal. It is only possible now due to advancements in technology, digital audio workstations, and plugins. More specifically, pitch, like automated pitch shifting plugins and ring mods and things like that. There's a lot of weird things that go into Thal that you really couldn't get away with in 1994. And as well as 7-string extended range baritone guitars. These were available, but they weren't readily available. Like, for instance, you could get things like something like this, which is an Ibanez RG 7620 in a complete state of disrepair. But this, due to the scale length of that, which is 25.5 inches, you can't really effectively tune down to tunings like drop E or drop D sharp without having hell to pay when in the recording process. Anyways, that's me getting pedantic, but I think you understand my point. The equipment that is now available is what is allowing these lower tunings to be reached. I'll provide here's a clip of the sound of Thal. Another example can be taken from the genre of post-minimalism, specifically Colin Stetson's song The Stars in His Head. While playing this in 1994 is entirely technically and compositionally possible, it is the issue once again rests within the technological limitations of 1994. It wouldn't be possible to record this album in a way that it was the same way that it was recorded in 2011. The clean inside your skull sound and like the mix and the master that Stetson is known for, like the density of the microphones, like one on his neck, the percussion that is used by like the impact mics on the actual saxophone. It's just wasn't available. The ability to properly mix that was not possible in the 90s. I believe that these examples are only scraping the surface of what can be used to prove his time travel experiment wrong. If you wish to truly get pedantic, I'm sure there are new tunings and not like tunings as in guitar tunings, but like different things to 12-tet, what is commonly used, like 12-tone equal temperament tuning. There's probably tons and tons and tons of different tunings and harmonic systems which are possible now because of technology. I'm sure you can look them up on YouTube. There's tons. I guarantee you Adam Neely's probably got like 16 videos on shit like that. Because of this, I will posit that all of the elements that made the music of 1994 sonically unimaginable to someone in 1974, and the music of 1974 sonically unimaginable to someone in 1954, are exclusively technological advancements. These are things like distortion, or mostly different effects, the ability to have amplified bass. Like the bass guitar and its existence, like the Fender Precision bass or the Fender Jazz bass, changed everything completely. That is not a stylistic choice. That is technological innovation. I did originally have a section here where I was addressing some counterpoints. This will apply to both of my other two theses. If you find any things that you wish to poke holes into, feel free to respond in the comments. I would love to have discussions over this stuff. It gets rough when it's just one guy in his room schizopositing. There's only so much good walks in the woods can do. So yes, if you have any counterpoints, please post them in the comments. I will gladly address them. Next, the music as art of the past is becoming sonically unimaginable today. I will propose a counter time travel example to show that the music of the past is sonically unimaginable to the people of today. Let us take Igor Stravinsky's 1913 ballet, The Rite of Spring, and show it to someone who is familiar with modern mainstream music as merchandise. This is the stuff that you hear on the radio. This is pop music. Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring will be sonically unimaginable to them, not due to technology, but due to the simplification of music. They could not comprehend the composition behind the music. I found a lot of issues linguistically with the term sonically unimaginable. Some could argue that because something like The Rite of Spring, which has been around for well over 100 years, has had an inarguable influence on genres like movie soundtrack, which is true. But they will also add that because of this, The Rite of Spring is sonically imaginable. This I will disagree with. First, let's break down sonically unimaginable down to the meaning of the words. Sonically is quite simple. It's the quality of the sound itself, the music as a sound. And unimaginable, which is not so simple. For something to be unimaginable, it has to be by definition not comprehensible. And in order for something to be comprehensible, one must be able to grasp it mentally and understand it. Thus, the actual composition of The Rite of Spring is unimaginable to a vast majority of people, as they lack the ability, more specifically the education and knowledge, to understand how and why the composition works, as the composition dictates what is being created sonically by the instruments and the orchestra. Something that someone cannot comprehend on paper and the score is inherently sonically unimaginable. Now, this is my counter time travel experiment. Now, let us take The Rite of Spring as an audio recording and as the full score. Let's say specifically the sacrificial dance. First, we will show this to someone on the street. We will show them the score and tell them to explain it. Most people with no understanding of music will not be able to tell you anything except that it is notes on a page. This will be like reading a foreign language to them. A smaller group who are aware of music theory and the language being spoken or written will be able to make out the complex rhythms or the E flat 7 chord played over an E minor chord, but they cannot tell you why this is done. An even smaller group will be able to explain why Stravinsky did this and why it works in the context, which mostly boils down to repetition legitimizes. You can play a chord over and over again, and eventually it will make sense in the context that it is being played in. Its own language game. Due to the inability of the average person to understand, to comprehend what is written in the score, we can say that based on the definition of sonically unimaginable, that The Rite of Spring is sonically unimaginable, thus proving that the element of sonic unimaginability is also tied to an understanding of music theory. So my third thesis, this is where my script kind of ran out. I guess this is where I ran out of juice for my frantic typing. So I'm going to kind of summarize this when I'm thinking about it now. Because of the sheer depth of what's possible harmonically and how a lot of this stuff hasn't been tried with modern stylistic choices, which are possible only due to technology, music as an art, so music which is made with the intent specifically in mind or as a projection of the creator's uniqueness, hasn't been taken to the point. Well, not really, it hasn't been taken to the point, but it's limitless because technology will always expand. And so, while technology expands, there will be new music theory that goes along with it. This is ever expanding, the same way language is. And because of this, music as art is completely immune to the slow cancellation of the future because it is determined by the future. It is determined by what people can create using technology. While, once again, I'm not disagreeing with what Fisher was saying, I believe Fisher was right with things like genre and music as merchandise being like stagnating and no longer having a future because it's determined by market trends and what is profitable and consistently profitable. I'm saying that music as art, music as a high art form, is immune to that. And it always will be. I don't really know how to really conclude this because it's like I just explain my points and what I believe. What I'm getting at is that music is limited. Music in its purest form as art is only limited by technology because of what I stated previously. Yeah, if you enjoyed and want to see more yaps like this, feel free to subscribe. If you have any counterpoints and you want to argue with me in the comments, please do. Please, like, genuinely, I welcome it. Please. debate me. Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this made sense. Yeah. Anyways, have a great day.